but they were hammering me. They thought they had us until I put you in that position, and I don't know what the hell magic wand you use. And now they don't talk about it anymore. It's terrible. Well, we'll talk. We have to talk about it, you know? If they don't talk about it, we talk about it, right, Brooke? But what a job you've done. Now we need Congress to pass the largest tax cuts in American history, and Mike is going to get that. And I think we can finally say one big, beautiful bill, because everybody's there. I spoke with John Thune, who's doing a terrific job also, and the senators, and we want one big, beautiful bill. Just put it all in that bill, and we'll figure a way to have it passed, right? We'll figure a way. But we have, it'll be the largest tax cuts in American history. When you add that onto the fact that if they don't pass this, you will have the largest tax increase by far, because the tax increase that I passed 5 years ago, the biggest in history, bigger than the Reagan tax cuts, what happens is that jumps back to where they used to be. So if you add that onto the other normal tax increases that the Democrats want to give, this would be the largest tax increase in history by 58% or more, I guess, but 58%. And I don't know how anybody can vote for a Democrat, but I know one thing, that I believe the Democrats are going to be forced to help vote for this bill. And then we have the very important continuation of debt. I don't call it a debt increase, because we're not looking to increase. We want to just continue that line, and we should call it, I think, from now on, Mike, we're going to call it the continuation, because that's what it is. That was thrown into our lap unnecessarily, but we have it, and it's fine that we have it. But I think we're going to get tremendous support even from Democrats, because otherwise they're voting for the biggest tax increase in history by far, by, I think, 38 points. And I don't think they're going to want to do that. So, Mike, I hear you're doing great on it. And we're going to have tremendous goodies in the bag for women, too. The women, between the fertilization and all of the other things that we're talking about, it's going to be great. We're joined today, fertilization. I'm still very proud of it. I don't care. I'll be known as the fertilization president, and that's okay. That's not bad. That's not bad. I've been called much worse. Actually, I like it, right? I like it. Thank you. We're joined today by many of the women members of the House and Senate who make up so much and make this all happen. And I especially want to recognize the leaders of the brand new Republican Women's Caucus. Senator Katie Britt, again, Katie, thank you. Thank you, Katie. Great job you do. And Representative Kat Kamek, who just announced a new baby girl. That's good. I also want to say driving force behind the effort to create a Women's History Museum, with working very much with some of the women in this room. I'm not sure if it's been discussed specifically, but to create a women's museum on the National Mall. And we have a great site. I'm very good at real estate, you know. We have a great site. And Nicole Malliotakis is here someplace. Where's Nicole? And she is really working hard on this one. This is a passion for you, and you're working. It's a big, beautiful. She said it's going to be a big, beautiful museum. Well, it has to be. If it's for women, it better be big and beautiful, or we're in trouble, right? But we're working on that. Also here, I just have this list, and they're incredible people, so I have to do it. Otherwise, I'll be run out of town. I don't have the courage not to do it. Senator Marsha Blackburn. Marsha, thank you very much. So incredible. Unbelievable talent. Senator Joni Ernst. Joni Ernst. Where's Joni? Hi, Joni. I owe you a call. I'll call you. Okay? Deb Fisher just won a great race, Nebraska. Thank you, Deb. Great race, Deb. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. Oh, we love Cindy Hyde. Thank you, Cindy Hyde. She said, sir, could you do a rally for me? I said, yeah, I'll do a rally for you. I get this. Sir, could you do 2 more for me? I did. We did 3, and we blew him out, right? It was an Obama sycophant. We blew him out of the water, right, Cindy Hyde? So thank you. And Senator Ashley Moody, congratulations. Where is Ashley? Congratulations, Ashley. Also representative, and this one is tough. She's tough. Lisa McLean. She's tough and good. She's a good one. She's a real leader. Thank you. Great job, Lisa. Representative Stephanie Bice. Thank you very much. Thank you. Where's Stephanie? Thank you very much, darling. Sherry Biggs. Hi. Hi, Sherry. Good. Lauren Boebert. Great people. Monica De La Cruz. Monica De La Cruz. Hi, Monica. Good job. Julie Fedorchak. Fedorchak. Hi, Julie. Great. Nice to see you. A person that is more experienced than anybody, and she's still a young woman, very young, Virginia Fox. Virginia. What a good woman, right, Mike? A quiet woman, but she, underneath that quiet facade, she's a tiger. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Highly respected woman, I tell you. Thanks, Marjorie. Great woman. Diana Harshbarger. Diana Harshbarger. Where are you, Diana? Thank you. Thank you. Good job with your son, too. Thank you. Ashley Hinton. Ashley. Thank you. Thanks, Ashley. Good. Good job. Erin Houchin. Thank you, Erin. Thank you very much. Laurel Lee. Laurel, thank you. Good. Good job. Julia Letlow. Good. Nice seeing you, Julia. She's done a great job. Anna Paulina Luna. Anna. Good. Nice to see you. Another quiet one, Nancy Mace. Hi, Nancy. Great. Great job. And Nicole, I said hello to you and your museum, and you get that going, and we're going to back it 100%, unless the women here would rather not have a... Is anybody not in favor of a women's museum in this room, please? It's okay. I could see some. Maybe they want to save a couple of bucks, right? No takers. Okay. You're all set. You have it then, I guess. I sort of thought that was going to happen. Celeste Malloy. Celeste, thank you. Great job. Great job. Carol Miller, great election. Thank you, Carol. Great job, Carol. A friend of mine, a beautiful person, a beautiful family. It's like she's got children. They're all supermodels, male and female. Handsome husband. Carol. Mary. Carol. Mary Miller. Mary. How's it going? Okay, good. Mary Miller's a really spectacular person and a great congresswoman. Thank you very much. 22nd grandchild. Look at her. It's one of the most beautiful families. It really is, starting with you. It's just a beautiful family. So you have a long way to go, Kat. Come on, you have to get going. Marionette Miller Meeks. Great election you had. Great election. Great. Great job. Oh, Maria Salazar. Where is Maria? She is strong. She's a tough one, but they love her. We all love her. Thank you. Another one who's really good. I got to know her very well, along with Mike. We were having some talks, and she really knows what she's talking about. She was right 100%. Victoria Spartz. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you very much. And Beth Van Dyne, who's fabulous. Hi, Beth. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's such a great group of people. And there's others in there. I'm going to get killed. I know. You're for me and I'm for you. That's true. Can you imagine there are others? I'm sitting and looking at others. I'm going to be in trouble. That's the problem. When you do that, you leave a couple of them out. They never speak to you again. They never. Now we need Congress to pass the largest tax cuts, and we are going to get that done. And we're joined today by so many people that are just so great. And we are going to have a little bit of a celebration after this is finished in one of the outer rooms. They have some stuff for the women. Much better. We did this for men. And, you know, it's very unexciting having a day for men. I stood up here. It was like I reduced the speech from 10 pages to about 2 paragraphs. It was boring. It was boring as hell to tell you. Throughout our history, strong, tough, visionary women have defended our flag, strengthened our communities, explored new frontiers, and expanded the American dream for all of our children and all of our people. Now, patriotic American women like those in this room are helping lead our nation into the golden age of America. And that's what we're calling it. This is the golden age of America. We want to do things that nobody thought were possible. You know, had I done it the more traditional way, which I actually did, but we won't talk about that. But had it been the, 4 + 4 as opposed to floor 4, let's see how bad they do, and then we get another 4 at numbers too big to rig, we call it. We have to go out too big to rig. They tried, but it was too big to rig. Had we done it that way, it wouldn't have been nearly as important or nearly as historic. It's much more historic. It's a much more important presidency. And frankly, because of how bad they were, we're able to do things that we could have never done if it were traditional. I don't think, Marjorie, we would have ever been able to have done the things we are doing now. You see what we're doing with the colleges, and they're all bending and saying, sir, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And they are, nobody can believe it, including law firms that have been so horrible, law firms that nobody would believe, and they're just saying, where do I sign? Where do I sign? Nobody can believe it, and there's more coming. But we really are in the golden age of America, and I think you're going to see it more and more as we go along. Together, we're beginning our country's greatest era, and we're building a future that will be stronger, safer, healthier, and happier than ever before. And you're really going to be the leaders. I think you're going to be the dominant leaders, and you have a lot of them in this room politically, but just the fact that you're here and the fact that you're with us is so important. There's nothing like strong, beautiful, wonderful women. You have the heart, you have the whole spirit. You're amazing people, and it's an honor to be with you, and we're going to work together, and we're going to make this the greatest age in the history of our country. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.
Well, good evening. You're watching and listening to GB News. We've just been hearing President Donald Trump speaking there on Women's History Month at the White House. He's been celebrating female members of his administration. We'll bring you continuing coverage from the White House throughout tonight, where the president is expected to announce tariffs on the automotive industry. Let's cross live now to Westminster for State of the Nation with Matt Goodwin.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back to State of the Nation tonight on GB News with me, Matt Goodwin. Now, Britain's economy, in case you haven't noticed, is in the toilet. Growth has collapsed. Productivity is poor. Living standards have suffered one of the sharpest declines on recent record. Confidence has slumped and prosperity feels like a distant dream. I don't know about you, but when I walk around the streets of Britain these days, I feel a mix of depression and embarrassment. The streets are dirty, public transport rarely works, and when it does arrive, it's worn down. Petty crime has basically been legalised, leaving a mood of fear and anxiety hanging in the air. Public services are a joke. London is dead. People are visibly struggling and nothing seems to work. The only thing I do feel certain about is that while the present is already worse than the past, the future looks set to be even worse. Now, today, Labour Chancellor Rachel Reeves issued her emergency budget, a panic move because she was on the brink of breaking her own fiscal rules. And while she's facing criticism for cutting public services and losing control of the public finances, there is a much bigger picture being missed here. We have 170,000 more civil servants on the payroll than we did in 2016, all of whom, by the way, are being paid for by you, the British taxpayer. Our welfare spending has been going up and is now projected to surpass £360 billion a year by 2028-29. Our debt servicing costs are over £100 billion. That's the cost of servicing our national credit card. It's our fourth highest cost. Bear in mind that we are borrowing as well more than £100 billion every year too, leaving our economy in a deeply vulnerable, fragile place. Our productivity is basically non-existent, and on top of all that, We're now flooding the economy with masses of low-skill, low-wage migration from outside of Europe, migrants who are taking more out of the economy than they're putting in, as even the Office for Budget Responsibility now accepts. The verdict, I think, is clear. We are facing a severe economic crisis. New YouGov polling shows that just 16% of the British public think that the government is handling the economy well, and only 11% think Rachel Reeves is doing a good job. I know, I'm wondering about the 11% as well. Pollsters Ipsos Murray find that only 14% of people out there in the country feel better off under the Labour government. Only 14%, a shocking number. And you know what? With today's news that the OBR, a deeply flawed institution in itself, has halved growth forecasts for the year from 2 to 1%, it proves that the British people are right to feel this way. But let's be honest, this isn't just about dissatisfaction with the Labour government. This is about dissatisfaction with the entire political class. Hardly anybody out there thinks that Labour has the answers, and they certainly don't think that the Tories have the answers either. When I look out there at the country, I see a collapse of public trust and faith in the entire establishment, which looks completely out of touch with the concerns of ordinary people. An establishment that, whether on the left or the right, whether Labour or the Tories, is wedded to this big tax, big spending, big welfare, big state, big net zero, big immigration economy that's making us poorer and pushing us into managed decline. And this isn't just about the economy either. When people are asked who will lower immigration, who will stop the small boats, who will reduce crime, the most popular answer today is not Labour, it's not the Conservatives, it's none of them. There is a widespread feeling among the British people that they are now trapped in a flimsy, disintegrating boat on stormy seas with no captain and surrounded by enormous, terrifying waves. It's a sense that nobody in power really knows what they're doing anymore, that nobody's even bothering to listen to the forgotten majority. The country, I think, needs a radical overhaul of public spending, government efficiency, tax cuts and deregulation. We need to get back to what really matters when it comes to driving prosperity. But none of the Westminster class is willing to give Britain the economic electric shock therapy that we desperately need. As ever, let me know your views at gbnews.com/yoursay or hit me up at X at GoodwinMJ. I'm joined now, though, by one of the godfathers of Euroscepticism and monetarist economics, Patrick Minford. Patrick, thank you for joining us on the show. It is a big day in British politics. We've got that spring statement from Rachel Reeves. Can we just get your initial reaction to what you heard today from the Chancellor at just after midday?
Well, it's welcome that she is going to try to cut public spending and the civil service and also the welfare bill. That is welcome news. The trouble is she's put the economy in a terrible position with her last budget, with this big rise in taxes, particularly on low-paid workers. You know, the national insurance tax that she's put on is very damaging to business and very, very damaging to employment. And on top of that, and far worse, really, she put these big inheritance tax and capital gains tax changes, which have hammered business confidence and really upset the small business sector and farms, you know, which have been hugely set back. And it's very bad for business confidence, what she did in her last budget. So really, she's trying to make good after that terrible mistake. And that's all very difficult to do. And then you can add in the employment bill, which is about to become law, which is very, very damaging, again, to small businesses. And at the bottom of what you say is the productivity disaster, because how can you get productivity up when business is being whacked by these very demanding, killing taxes on, you know, their activities and their prospects? That's where she's. But I do welcome the fact that she's trying to cut the size of public spending and also cut the welfare bill. I mean, that is a step forward at least.
But Patrick, it does seem that we're not really dealing with the underlying structural problems in our national economy. And it seems to me, at least, that as we head into the next budget in the autumn, it's almost certain that we're going to have some kind of tax rises or even more sweeping spending cuts just to deal with the underlying structural problems in the economy. We've got too much debt. We've got very expensive debt. We've got still very low growth rates historically. We've got low productivity. I think we've got too much immigration that is encouraging businesses to avoid innovating, to avoid becoming more dynamic. It seems that Labour and Rachel Reeves are sort of kicking the bigger problems into the long grass.
Well, yes, I agree with you. The whole direction is wrong, because what they've done is to kill growth with their last sets of measures. And what they need to do is to reorientate the economy towards growth by rewarding business investment and innovation. That's at the root of it all. Really, the whole of the orientation of policy has been wrong. They've raised taxes and killed off the incentives of business, and then said they want growth and they want to kind of make everything fit that. But of course, they haven't got any growth because they kicked away the support of growth in the form of incentives for business to innovate. So the beginning of it all, they have to reconstruct the whole thing so that there's an incentive to grow for business. The beginning of everything is incentives for business in the private sector, and then keeping the government under some sort of limit so that then there's money to pay for public services, helped by the growth that the private sector can make available. But
Patrick Minford, can I just show you a clip briefly of Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservative Party, reacting to the spring statement? Let me just show you this clip for a minute.
I think that it was all smoke and mirrors. I remember the last budget when Rachel Reeves said she was smashing glass ceilings. Now it feels like the roof is falling over all our heads. Inflation is up 2.6% to 3.2%. Unemployment is going up, and it's forecast to go higher year after year after year. There's people's jobs out there. That's terrible. And growth has halved. Even the forecasts which he said were promising are lower than what they were last year. Something has to change. This is chaos.
So, Patrick Minford, briefly, if I may, what do you make of Kemi Badenoch's reaction there to the spring statement?
Well, I think she's right that the policy is going nowhere, and it needs to be turned around 180 degrees to focus on growth. You know, everybody's been very sort of sneering about Liz Truss, but she got the priorities right. She tried to create an environment in which growth was the prime aim, and there were incentives for business to create it with low taxes and, without this sort of crazy approach that this government has, which is the private sector doesn't matter. What matters is unions and the public sector, and we'll raise taxes to pay for them. That isn't the right way to go. They shouldn't have raised taxes on business. They should have kept taxes down. And we need to get back to the philosophy of putting business first. And then, I'm hoping Kemi Badenoch will move in that direction and point the way to these new policies that are needed to put growth at the heart of the mission and make everything else fit with that.
Well, thank you, Patrick Minford. Now, with me is my panel, former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza and former Reform UK spokesman Gawain Towler. Matthew, Patrick Minford there saying basically Labour doesn't really understand the incentives that drive business, prosperity and growth, and that they are really out of step with what it means to have a growing economy.
Well, I completely disagree. I mean, this government's entire agenda is about growth. I mean, one of the reasons that, yes, growth is forecast to be lower this year, but it's forecast to be higher later in the Parliament. One of the reasons for that is that, at long last, the planning system is being unlocked so that we can get building. That adds 0.2%. Yeah, well, I mean, it also means that the 170,000 extra houses that wouldn't otherwise be built will be built because of those planning regulations. I mean, that's actually what Liz Truss talked about and couldn't deliver. So, I mean, there's the logic of this argument is just ridiculous. Patrick's saying, Liz Truss was doing the right things to unleash the economy. One of them, as she talked about, was planning reform. Neither she, in her very brief premiership, nor the other, however many it was, Conservative prime ministers, delivered reform of the planning system. Labour's delivered it in 6 months. So let's see what it delivers over the long term. But it's all very well for right-wing commentators to say, you should do this, you should do that, and then when Labour does it, it's ignored, which I think is a very strange argument.
No, we heard a lot today from Rachel Reeves about how this is all the result of global factors, Donald Trump and, Ukraine and so on. But the reality is it was Rachel Reeves at the last budget who increased taxes on businesses through national insurance. It was Labour that went on a big spending spree. A lot of this that we're seeing reflected in the growth figures that we're seeing reflected in this deteriorating economy, I would argue, should land on Rachel Reeves' shoulders. She's kicking a lot of the longer-term stuff into the long grass, right? She's not really dealing with what's the strategy for cutting debt, what's the strategy for getting back to good growth rates, what's the strategy for actually driving productivity in the British economy again.
Well, I don't agree with that at all, because one of the big things that she's getting a lot of flack for from the left is the firmness on welfare, which includes a huge mission to get people off welfare and into work, which is what you have to do by expanding the size of the workforce. She had to increase taxes in the last budget, not least because as well as sorting out the frankly selection of unfunded spending commitments that the Tories left, she also invested in the NHS. You call it a spending spree. If you're going to have one of the 7 million people on the waiting list and it delivers the operation that you've been waiting for years, you're going to say thank you very much for it.
Yeah, by raising taxes, she also broke one of Labour's manifesto pledges. Great. I mean, what's your reaction to the spring statement today and what you heard from the Chancellor?
I think it's the whole growth agenda that Labour has trumpeted and trumpeted and trumpeted is a chimera. The Labour economic approach, both the budget and the spring statement, have been intensely political rather than economic. They are playing to a political audience rather than the audience that they need to play to, which is the people who employ people. Having an employment rights bill, which isn't even covered in the OBR, having an employment rights bill that will make it harder to employ people, it's all very well saying people have rights, but the first right they need is having a job. And the problem is we've had 230,000 businesses close since the budget. That's before the budgetary impact that comes in April. And I think there's a cut of from 2% to 1% growth. And yet somehow, in some bizarre way next year, because as the planning conditions have been improved, which won't kick in instantly anyhow, that they will double it. I don't believe that. And it is also interesting that, of course, all the way through the Tory period, when the Tories pointed to the global situation, no, it's entirely your fault. As soon as Labour's in, it's the global situation. Look, squirrels over there, squirrels over there. I mean, it's dishonest.
Matthew, Gawain does have a point. We have 200,000 businesses closing. We have millionaires leaving at a record rate, especially when compared to other countries. I mean, let's just be frank. Business isn't feeling much confidence in the British economy at the moment. And I think a lot of people are looking at Britain and thinking, is this a place I want to invest? A lot of young people thinking, should I actually move to Dubai or take up digital nomad visas
I'm not sure that many people are thinking they should move to Dubai. I think a few writers for certain newspapers who've got access to that.
Let's just be real with one another for a moment. The economy, it's not going well for the vast majority of people who are watching this show. Now, when are we actually going to deal with these underlying structural problems?
Well, that's what I mean. Now is the answer to that, and that's why welfare to work, which is one of the key platforms of Labour's approach. Because I agree with you. Some of those businesses that complain are also businesses that got used to the sugar rush of very cheap labour from outside the EU. I mean, one of the interesting things about the graphics and the figures that you use, we've had 160,000 extra civil servants since 2016. Guess what happened then? Brexit. We've had
Sure.
You've also had the issue about immigration, where immigrants from the EU were net contributors to the economy because of mass immigration from outside the EU. Overall, the average was positive. Now the average is negative since we left, and we don't have the access to the labour pool. So self-inflicted wounds inflicted by the Brexiteers.
The number of people who stayed, 6 million people who took permanent residence. I think that covers for our European friends arriving here, frankly. But what we've had since then, the Boris wave and all the rest of it, we know that the vast majority of recent migrants are a drain on the economy and will be a continued drain for decades.
Can I just ask you one thing? I saw that the former Prime Minister Liz Truss put a video out today basically saying, look, what you've heard today is the accumulation of things that I warned about when I was in office. Spiralling debt, a big state, not net zero, the fiscal costs, etc. Now, Liz Truss basically saying what we need in this country is a shock to the economic settlement that the Treasury and SW1 are not really capable of entertaining.
Yes, Truss clearly was a woman in a hurry. She realised that she only had 2 years to change things and tried to do it all at once. She front-loaded everything in one go, and that fell apart. If you look at what Thatcher did, she built for years to get in a position to do that emergency surgery. But she spent a long time building up stocks, building up supplies, so she could do the emergency surgery. And that's not something Truss has done, and it's certainly not something this government's done.
And just briefly, Matthew Larser, there are Labour MPs who are absolutely furious about what they've heard today, the welfare cuts in particular, the cuts to foreign aid. How is this spring statement going to sit within the Labour Party?
Well, I mean, I think there are going to be quite a lot of unhappy people about the welfare cuts. I mean, it will be fine to get it through Parliament, but because of the size of the majority. But you know, when people talk about shock and awe to the economy, what that shock and awe to the economy means, you know, this tiny thing of freezing, which is obviously has individual impact, but of freezing some benefit levels. If you really want to cut billions out of the economy, you're talking about taking money out of vulnerable people's pockets, and you're talking about taking money out of the NHS, education, and now defence. It's easy sound bites, and I would play that same argument to people on the Labour left, equally on the populist right.
Well, thank you to my panel for now. After the break, today marks the moment that 30,000 illegal migrants have crossed the Channel since the Labour Party came to power, promising to smash the gangs. Well, I'll be looking at what's coming next after the break, so I'll see you in a couple of minutes, and we'll look at these figures and what's really happening in Britain in detail. See you shortly.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The very unsettled weather across the eastern parts of the Mediterranean will continue for a little while yet, particularly across parts of Greece, Turkey, into Italy as well. There will be some further heavy, thundery rain to come with some more issues as a result. A bit drier further west, though, actually across much of Spain. A dry picture as we go through Thursday, but there is a band of rain out in the Atlantic, and that could spread towards Madeira as we go towards the end of the week. Otherwise, west is best when it comes to the sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, right here on GB News. Now, you've been sending in your views. Lely says, that's where I'm at, Matt. No faith, no trust in any political party. I refuse to keep going back to the same system, voting for change, for nothing to happen. And Tim says, you sum up how we feel very well, Matt. My view is that we've drifted for 3 decades into a neo-Marxist-dominated culture and a neo-Marxist economy. Well, thank you for your views. Keep them coming in. gbnews.com/yoursay and hit me up on X at GoodwinMJ. Now, welcome back. We have nearly reached a grim milestone as almost 30,000 illegal migrants have arrived in Britain, breaking our laws, entering the country illegally under the Labour government. Nearly 30,000. What a number. That is an incredible 40% year-on-year increase. I didn't hear anything about that today in the House of Commons. So much for smashing the gangs, I guess. Today marked the 8th consecutive day of crossings with approximately, get this, 1,900 illegal migrants, not irregular migrants, illegal migrants, arriving at the Border Force Processing Centre in Dover since last Thursday. Plus, Channel migrant crossings this year have now passed 5,500 in record time, despite Labour's attempts to crack down on people smugglers. I think people out there are furious. I think taxpayers are furious. I think we demand and deserve change. Still with me is my panel, former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza and former Reform UK spokesman Gawain Towler. Now, Matthew, I don't think you'll mind me saying, in the break we were talking about how the debate over immigration is one of the things that really could cause a problem for Keir Starmer and the Labour government. These numbers, 30,000 since Labour came to power, 157,000 since 2018, so both parties have clearly failed. But people out there are saying, you know, this is making a mockery of our claim to be a sovereign, independent, self-governing nation, because a nation that cannot control its borders is not a serious nation. What on earth is Yvette Cooper seriously going to do about this?
I think the biggest problem with this is the impact it has on democracy, because at the moment, people are seeing the same. I mean, oh yes, it's gone a little bit higher, but they're effectively seeing nothing being done. Nobody is either smashing the gangs or stopping the boats, and the boats keep coming in the hands of the gangs. So what it seems is, if you're sitting at home watching the programme, you think, well, can anybody actually do anything? And that's what pushes people into mixture cynicism and extremism.
I can solve it right now. We leave the ECHR. We reform the Human Rights Act, which entrenches the ECHR into UK law. We have an active deterrent, a processing centre outside of the UK. And here's another thing. We reduce the amount of welfare that we're giving to people who break our laws. Why doesn't the Labour government do that?
Well, I think that one of those that is the most likely to happen under Labour is the offshore processing, which I think is a realistic option. It's being looked at by lots of other European countries. Meloni from Italy has started to do it. We were just discussing that Poland is now looking at it as well. And that's different to Rwanda because it's doing it under British law in our case, but not on British shores. But look, if Labour has got to get a grip of this, if it doesn't, it will be a one-term government. Now,
Gawain, obviously you are connected, still connected to the world of reform. You've also been watching the Conservative Party closely. Where does the right go on this issue? Because on the one hand, you've got Reform saying, leave the ECHR, that's what we need to do to control our borders.
That's a start.
The Conservative Party currently is not committed to that policy.
There are some in the Conservative Party, but they're not the majority and it won't happen.
But let's just speak for the British people here, because I think I share their utter frustration at the state of this country. Where's the right going on this? How can we get some change on this?
I think where the right's going, I think the country is definitely moving into a much more angry position. And I think that if we see over the next few years another 700,000, another 700,000, another 500 or 600,000 arriving here, and that's legal, forget the illegal, that's legal, then I think that the atmosphere will be increasingly angry and increasingly open to a much more radical response.
Well, let's stay on the small boats for a minute, because looking at the costs, it's a cost. You know, there's a cultural impact, which is, the cultural impact is also very real. We have a lot of people, mainly young men, often from Islamic countries, coming into Britain. We don't know really who they are. We don't know why they're here. But also the fiscal costs are enormous. £5.5 billion at least on our broken asylum system.
Correct.
£5.5 million a day on hotels and accommodation.
Which adds up to £2 billion a year.
Meanwhile, we are taking welfare and winter fuel payments off
the
British
sick,
pensioners
the elderly,
and
all
it's
the
that
rest
sense
of
of
it.
unfairness, I'd put it to you, that is really beginning to wind people up.
If there's something about the people of this country, is we do have a very strong sense of what is fair. It's not so much justice, it's fairness. It's something that you and I can work out. We don't need to apply to a higher authority. But we know that this isn't fair. We don't need me or Matthew or yourself to tell them it's not fair. They know it in their gut. And it isn't fair. So what do you do? Well, the first thing you do is basically say, anybody who arrives here illegally, talking about these 30,000, will never receive right to remain.
No, this was Rishi Sunak's policy, in fairness, the illegal migration, which Labour overturned.
He didn't do it.
Well, he didn't argue. In defence of Rishi Sunak, he didn't have a chance to do it. But,
hold on.
Labour did basically liberalise.
They had 14 years of Tory government. They let this go ahead. They let this continue, and they did not do it.
Sure.
It's a bit rich that as you go into elections, say, "Oh, we'll do this."
Sure, but the idea of detain and deport will never be taken up by Keir Starmer and the Labour government, let's be real. But I think Wayne has a point. You know, you're Yvette Cooper, you're sitting in the Home Office, it's 157,000 people now. What happens when it starts to get to 200,000, 250,000, 300,000, colliding with what the OBR has said today is going to be one of the sharpest downturns in living standards? We're going to have a real squeeze on the quality of life in this country, this managed decline. I mean, Labour... What's going on in number 10? Are Labour looking at the polling that I'm looking at? This is the second issue for the country behind the economy, and people out there are furious.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think Labour needs to be conscious of the impact that immigration, not getting a grip of immigration, is going to have. Labour would argue that one of its big priorities is pushing down the legal numbers by welfare to work, by incentives to get into work. I know I sound like a record stuck on that, but it is, you know, increasing the percentage of the working age population in work is absolutely vital. We're the only country where it's still below what it was in COVID. My problem is I think you're absolutely right, Gawain. I mean, I think there is a British inherent sense of fairness. The problem at the moment is the only British people who don't seem to notice that are our judges. Because whether it's a British Bill of Rights or it's the ECHR, I think the way the judges interpret it is extraordinary compared to other European countries.
I wrote about this today, this remarkable case of a Pakistani paedophile that we couldn't deport out of the country. We couldn't get him out because he said that being deported might risk his mental health and he might struggle to communicate with authorities in Pakistan because he also had problems with drugs and alcohol. I mean, why on earth are these people in the country? Every day on social media, I put a case on social media of another absurd violation of our laws.
We don't necessarily know that was the only reasons, but that was a clear reason. No, the point is our judges have become very, very self-obsessed. They believe that they are above the people and therefore above their democratically elected masters. They think that, the law is sacrosanct, and they have become activised. They are active. The Supreme Court system has made them far more active. And the amount of judicial reviews, whenever somebody is actually deported, you immediately get appeals after appeal. People are taken off the planes as they're getting on the planes. We have a system by which the great and the good look down deeply on the great unwashed and say, you are bad people. No, they are decent, reasonable people who have very reasonable complaints.
And let's also be clear, the reason that they're appealing often is because they're using the European Convention on Human Rights. Thank you to my panel. Now, in a moment, a big victory for free speech emerges in this country as the University of Sussex is fined £500,000 by the higher education regulator. What on earth has been going on? Why does this matter? What does it tell us about higher education and our dire universities? I'm going to be talking about that in a couple of minutes. See you shortly.
Good evening. Here's your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Whilst in the south it's going to stay fine for a little while, yet further north we do have some wet weather pushing its way in. That's because there's a front which has already started to make its way into the far northwest of Scotland, but it's going to continue to edge southeastwards as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. So we're going to see some rain spreading across much of Scotland and also Northern Ireland. That rain could be quite heavy, quite persistent across western parts of Scotland in particular, a bit drier further east. Meanwhile, across the bulk of England and Wales, staying largely dry with some clear skies, especially towards the southeast. And here we could see temperatures taking a little bit of a drop, so there may be a touch of frost in some prone rural spots. And a few pockets of mist and fog are possible as well. But across Scotland, away from the far north, where it may be quite bright for a time, for many parts, it is going to be a wet picture first thing. Some persistent rain could be a bit heavy, so it could cause some spray on the roads. Also pretty grey and a bit damp for some parts of Northern Ireland too. Some drizzly rain perhaps first thing across some parts of the far north of England and maybe western parts of Wales, particularly towards Snowdonia. But otherwise across England and Wales, once any mist and fog does clear away, it is going to be a bright picture and staying mostly fine through much of the day. The best of the sunshine towards the southeast. Meanwhile, across Scotland and Northern Ireland, it is still going to be cloudy. It's going to be wet at times and some blustery winds to watch out for too. These will make it feel relatively unpleasant, but towards the southeast, feeling warm in the sunshine, temperatures peaking around 17 or 18. That rain in the northwest does sweep through towards the southeast as we go overnight into Friday. So a wet start across southeastern parts, but that rain clears through with then sunny spells, but also plenty of showers following in behind. Some of these showers could be heavy, could be thundery. There could even be some snow over the higher ground of Scotland because we are going to see our temperatures dropping. After a fine start on Saturday, more rain arrives later.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to State of the Nation tonight on GB News with me, Matt Goodwin. Now, get this, the University of Sussex has been slapped with a massive £585,000 fine for silencing free speech. The higher education watchdog, the Office for Students, is punishing the university over its handling of Professor Kathleen Stock, who you might remember. She was forced out of the university in 2021 for expressing unfashionable views on gender ideology. Kathleen Stock was critical of the transgender ideology that is running rife through many of our public institutions. Now, the OFS claims that the University of Sussex's pro-trans policies created what they call a chilling effect on campus, leaving staff too scared to speak their minds. But the university is not backing down, calling the ruling a dangerous attack on free speech and vowing to take legal action. With me now is my panel to discuss this, former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza and former Reform UK spokesman Geraint Towler. Matthew, I should say that I actually helped design the Higher Education Free Speech Act, which was the basis for what we're seeing now, which is the Office for Students fining universities that do not uphold free speech because the universities have shown over the last 20, 30 years they're not going to reform themselves. We sometimes need that external intervention to force them to remember what it is we care about in this country. But it also tells us a lot about what's going on in university. I mean, this seems to be a slam-dunk victory for common sense, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, the report is pretty excoriating. And although, as you say, the system, the new system was in place, but people were pretty sceptical whether it would work, whether anybody would ever actually get ticking off. They haven't just got a ticking off; they've got a bomb right in front of them. And I think actually there'll be quite a lot of people in higher education who are secretly rather pleased, even if they don't say it out loud, that this will now be the rocket up the you-know-whats of every Vice-Chancellor up and down the country, that you allow free speech. Look, you can agree, you can disagree with Kathleen Stock, but you've got to let's actually have a debate. That's what universities are there for.
A Vice-Chancellor, by the way, at the University of Sussex, who's paid more than £300,000. The other thing I would say is, yes, I agree with you, we need the rocket. So why, then, is Bridget Phillipson and Labour, why are they working to defang this bill, namely remove the ability to sue universities that violate free speech? Is that because the Labour government doesn't really believe in free speech?
No, I think the Labour Party's moved a long way on this. I think briefly it was captured by the same machine that captured a lot of other institutions. I think you've seen people like West Routing who said they got things wrong in the past.
Under a Labour government, we would not have been allowed to sue, to fine the University of Sussex for harassing Kathleen Stock. That's the political reality.
My understanding was it was on pause, and that it's going to be that they were pausing to review, and that they are going to make sure that there is still provision that you can still challenge cases like this.
But not fine universities.
Well, I think today's example would be, I personally, because I'm not a Bridget Phillipson, I personally would allow the option to fine universities. And again, this is because if it's free speech the other way, if somebody on the left was being silenced, equally a university should be fined for that.
Gawain, what's this really telling us about the state of free speech on campus? Because I remember for much of the last 7 years, I was criticised on social media by many of my university colleagues saying, we do not have a problem with free speech on campus. Well, here you are, a university being fined over £500,000 because guess what? They've got a problem with free speech on campus.
They clearly have a problem with free speech on campus. I'm delighted with this result, by the way. Delighted. Yeah. However, what I find was very entertaining about this was that the fact that the university said, this means there isn't free speech on campus because we've been fined for stopping somebody else's free speech. And then they put out a statement saying, oh, we think that this cranker that attacks us, they have a rather dangerous and rather libertarian, literal idea about the concept of free speech. Well, what else is free speech? And you're right. It isn't just for people who share my views. That free speech has to be across the board.
Well, I read their statement too, and I think what the Vice-Chancellor said was something along the lines of, this is a vindictive, unreasonable response. Now, you have to wonder, what did Kathleen Stock feel when she was being hounded by activists on campus who basically made her life intolerable simply because she happened to say, I don't share this gender gobbledygook ideological view that dominates campus, and she was effectively, shunned on campus and sacked.
Yeah, when you read the report, what's interesting about it is it says it was a chilling, and then I'm paraphrasing, but a chilling effect not just on Kathleen Stock, but on people across the campus. And that's it. It's the groupthink. Universities are not there for groupthink. Whether it's groupthink on the left or groupthink on the right, they're there to challenge. So I wonder how long that Vice-Chancellor will be there. Maybe they'll be able to count their very substantial pension very soon.
Well, they're getting paid nearly more than twice as much as the Prime Minister.
That's an issue in itself.
The chilling effect of what happened to Kathleen Stock wasn't just at the University of Sussex. It was across the academic sector in the country. Now, one hopes that the chilling effect on those who hate free speech of a £565,000 fine might also have some positive benefits. Yeah. One hopes. And it's a shame. I'd love her to get the money, but she won't.
Yeah, but I do think there's also, just lastly, Matthew, there is a broader issue here. We've got Labour backtracking on the Higher Education Free Speech Act. We've got Labour saying they're going to expand non-crime hate incidents. We've got Labour saying they're going to introduce a new definition of Islamophobia, which I think many people out there will see as an attempt to cut back on free speech. We've got Keir Starmer berating many people in the country as far-right who happen to hold entirely legitimate views about immigration. The free speech crisis hasn't gone away.
No, I think the pressure needs to be kept up. I think in terms of the definition of Islamophobia, let's wait and see what happens. I think if Labour wanted to increase its popularity in one stroke, get rid of those non-crime hate incidents, don't increase them.
Well, thank you, Matthew Laza, and my panel, Gawain Towler. Up next is Patrick Christis. Patrick, what do you have on your fantastic show this morning? This evening?
Absolutely, absolutely all sorts, Matt. So we are going to be doing a panel show. Of course, we're reacting to that spring statement. Who's better off? Who's worse off? Did any Labour MP ever go into politics to slash the welfare bill, for example? We're also going to be having an exclusive with Shadow Justice Minister Robert Jenrick, who has got an exclusive on two-tier justice in Britain. All that and much more coming your way from 9 p.m.
Great stuff, Patrick, and also thanks to my top panel tonight, Reform UK spokesman Gawain Towler and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza. That's all coming up with Patrick Christis after the weather. I'm Matt Goodwin. This has been State of the Nation. It's been great to have you with us, and of course we will never stop speaking up for you, the forgotten majority. See you tomorrow night, 8 p.m.
warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Here's your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Whilst in the south it's going to stay fine for a little while yet, further north we do have some wet weather pushing its way in. That's because there's a front which has already started to make its way into the far northwest of Scotland, but it's going to continue to edge southeastwards as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. So we're going to see some rain spreading across much of Scotland and also Northern Ireland. That rain could be quite heavy, quite persistent across western parts of Scotland in particular, a bit drier further east. Meanwhile, across the bulk of England and Wales, staying largely dry with some clear skies, especially towards the southeast. And here we could see temperatures taking a little bit of a drop, so there may be a touch of frost in some prone rural spots. And a few pockets of mist and fog are possible as well. But across Scotland, away from the far north where it may be quite bright for a time, for many parts it is going to be a wet picture first thing. Some persistent rain, could be a bit heavy, so it could cause some spray on the roads. Also pretty grey and a bit damp for some parts of Northern Ireland too. Some drizzly rain perhaps first thing across some parts of the far north of England and maybe western parts of Wales, particularly towards Snowdonia. But otherwise across England and Wales, once any mist and fog does clear away, it is going to be a bright picture and staying mostly fine through much of the day. The best of the sunshine towards the southeast. Meanwhile, across Scotland and Northern Ireland, it is still going to be cloudy. It's going to be wet at times and some blustery winds to watch out for too. These will make it feel relatively unpleasant, but towards the southeast, feeling warm in the sunshine, temperatures peaking around 17 or 18. That rain in the northwest does sweep through towards the southeast as we go overnight into Friday. So a wet start across southeastern parts, but that rain clears through with then sunny spells, but also plenty of showers following in behind. Some of these showers could be heavy, could be thundery. There could even be some snow over the higher ground of Scotland because we are going to see our temperatures dropping. After a fine start on Saturday, more rain arrives later.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could be a spring winner, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag and not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches. Make sure you don't miss out, as lines close on the 4th of April. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.